They want to ban e-cigarettes in the state of Maryland because they are unsure if they are safe or not. Well, we're not sure if it's safe, so let's ban it outright. There's your freedom in the free state. We needed to get to the bottom of this. We're told that we don't know enough about them and that they are potentially dangerous. We're not experts. Sally Satel is, though. She's a resident scholar at the American Enterprise Institute, psychiatrist specializing in addiction. She's also served as an expert witness in a lot of different tobacco litigation. She understands tobacco and the addiction there. So perfect person to have. Hey, Sally, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. So we're told that these e-cigarettes, we're told by the people who love them that it helps them wean themselves off of cigarettes. But we're told by people who are anti-e-cigarette that these things are very dangerous. We don't know what's in the water vapor and that could be harmful. Can you help us out here?
Sure. The question with e-cigarettes is not whether they're safe, but whether they're safer. E-cigarettes are designed for people who already smoke, and there's no question among experts that when tobacco leaves are combusted, which is what happens when you smoke a conventional cigarette, they release tars and gases that lead to cancer and other smoking-related diseases. There's just no question about that. And the virtue of electronic cigarettes is that they do not burn tobacco. And because of that, people who already smoke are no longer exposing them to the dangerous part of cigarettes. The nicotine is not dangerous to your health. The nicotine addicts you. Now, that's not trivial, but the nicotine is not what causes cancer and is not what causes heart and lung disease.
So what you're saying is that we don't really know whether or not these e-cigarettes are safe. It's just in your assessment, based on the science that we have at hand right now, we know they are at least safer than cigarettes.
We definitely know they're safer by orders of magnitude. Toxicologists have estimated those orders to be between 100 and 1,000 times safer. And we do know what's in e-cigarettes. It's not a great mystery. Now, granted, I believe that the FDA should certainly regulate them as far as imposing manufacturing standards and good labeling, and that's sometimes inconsistent. But we know that, as I said, there's nicotine in it, and that is an addicting substance, of course, although you can get e-cigarettes without nicotine at all and just the flavoring. And we know it has an additive called propylene glycol. Propylene glycol is FDA approved. It's used in lots of food. It's used in asthma inhalers, and I emphasize that because that's the inhalation route. You know, you're actually taking it into your lungs. Now, it is true that when one smokes an e-cigarette, they probably get exposed to more propylene glycol than when they use an asthma inhaler, and this is something to follow over time. And that's why if you don't smoke at all, no one's encouraging you to take up e-cigarettes.
Right.
In fact, I would say that's probably a bad idea. Why take something into your lungs otherwise? But if you already smoke, you're going to be, you're wiping out your additional risk of, again, cancer and cardiovascular disease that's caused by smoking.
Well, but there's some suggestion here, I think, by some of these politicians that there is a potential danger in the secondhand vapor. I kid you not. That you're suggesting, well, you know, we know that it's safer than cigarettes, but you know, it still might not be the best thing for individuals to inhale this. But what about then what gets exhaled? What about the vapor that they're now blowing out? Could that be dangerous to people, just bystanders who happen to be standing next to you?
Well, you know, that's been measured, and the elements that are exhaled, some nicotine, and I mentioned the propylene glycol, are in levels that are so vanishingly small that they are, if they don't hurt the smoker, they're extremely unlikely to hurt people around them. This is not smoke. We think of smoke as smelly, and that it keeps, which it is, real smoke from conventional cigarettes, smells terrible. And also, when you're not puffing on a cigarette, it's in an ashtray, it's continuing to spew forth, you know, all its noxious ingredients. An e-cigarette only lets go, or rather releases this water vapor, you know, tinged with the nicotine and some propylene glycol and flavoring, which you sometimes can smell. It's a subtle odor of some sort of flavor. And that's what you smell, and it dissipates after a few feet. But there's very little indication that any kind of airborne elements would do pose a health risk.
Well,
but again, that's why I would, personally, I would not talk about what's called vaping. That's actually the verb for using electronic cigarettes. Not
Right, vaping,
smoking,
yeah.
It's vaping. That one does not do that in areas where there are non-smokers. One certainly doesn't do it in areas where there are children. These devices should be banned for people under 18. I mean, it is addicting. And again, the idea is this is for smokers, and it should be made so attractive to smokers.
Let me stop you there.
Switch.
I want to ask you one question, because there's another device out there that is like a cigarette, in which you inhale vapor, and I'm told reliably that some people are using it to smoke a liquid form of marijuana. So these things can be abused, can't they?
Everything on earth can be abused. There should be warnings against such things. If that, to the extent that's true, it's a problem.
But see,
again,
that would be attractive to kids, wouldn't it?
I don't think she heard your question, Brian.
That would be attractive to kids. I mean, that would draw kids in to use that kind of stuff, wouldn't it?
Well, this is the big issue about, I mean, you put your finger on it, really the big issue where the tension is when it comes to e-cigarettes is what potential harm might there be to children. Right now, we actually know that e-cigarette use among kids is low, but it has bumped up a bit. And 90% of the children, kids in high school, who use or have used an e-cigarette, they've also used a cigarette or hookahs or snuff or other kinds of things. So they're not as if they're completely naive to tobacco products, but smoking is actually declining in high school students. So certainly we'll have to watch that trend. But if anything, it's possible that to the extent to which some of them, a tiny number, are using these devices, they're using it to get off cigarettes. Which, of course, is the intended use.
Sally Satel, do you, really quickly, we're almost out of time, just 30 seconds, do you suspect that a lot of the concern about these e-cigarette devices is really rooted in the fact that aesthetically people are concerned that this is going to glamorize smoking and people will move from e-cigarettes to cigarettes instead of the other way around?
And well, that definitely is one of the concerns, that it will reverse the gain. But I just want to emphasize as we sign off that I'm not the only one in favor of this. The American Public Health Association has also been positive, and other health groups. Some are also very skeptical, it's true, but not taking a radical stance. And certainly the people who benefited from e-cigarettes and frankly saved their lives are very enthusiastic. And I think this could actually wipe out smoking in a few years to a decade.
Great stuff. Thank you, Sally Satel, resident scholar at American Enterprise Institute. Thanks for joining us.